上当百年，欺世大官。
Hello everyone, welcome to Deception of the World. In today's episode, we hold on to those so-called heroes and insert a movie topic, which is also related to farmers. Our past viewers have seen the four bully landlords, Liu Wencai, Huang Shiren, Nan Batian, and Zhou Bapi, who are on the Communist Party's hate list. But Chinese people have been brainwashed for many years, and these four people are far from enough to completely change everyone's perception of the image of landlords. So in this episode, let's continue to tell the truth about the landlords and talk about the documentary, The Hurricane, that overturned the history books of the Communist Party. The land reform of the Chinese gangster proletariat has transformed the communist core value as vividly. This is similar to the conceptual machine of the welfare system, everyone is equal, in the Western society, and it is thought-provoking. Before the show starts, please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click on the 3 buttons on the screen. Thank you. Now let's get back to our topic. After the war, from 1945 to 1949, the communists carried out a brutal land reform in the rural areas they occupied, and similar scenes continue to play out in rural areas across the country after the communist regime was established. In 1947, a member of the land reform and writer, Zhou Libo, wrote the novel The Hurricane, which described the unprecedented land reform movement and was also used as a textbook on land reform. It has also been widely spread for decades. In the early 1960s, the novel The Hurricane was made into a movie of the same name, which was repeatedly broadcast to further brainwash the nation. In 2005, another thing happened. The documentary The Hurricane, which is completely different from Zhou's novel, but has the same title. It was created by Jiang Yue and Duan Jinchuan after months of detailed research and a large amount of historical information. Zhou Libo's novel, The Hurricane's origin, took place at Heilongjiang Province, Shanzhi City, and the filming took 1 year to complete. It was formerly known as Zhuhe County. The name was changed due to the CCP to commemorate their hero, Zhao Shangzhi. But strange enough, the documentary has only been screened 3 times so far. What caused the film to be screened only 3 times? In his 2006 speech at the first forum for young documentary filmmakers, director Jiang Yue said, "I want to tell people how everything that happens today happens. So when I was doing my in-depth research, many people I didn't trust, not because of distrust, but I lived in the 60s and I was taught the opposite of what I know now. Of course, there are still many people who tell me that the land reform is not worth mentioning. That is over. That is settled. And there are some scholars still doing newer research. But I believe that the vast majority of the audience, the people, don't know what it's all about. When the first version I made was shown in the Yunnan Image Room, a man in his 60s said to me, 'If I believe this film of yours, then the party history will have to be rewritten.'" According to CCP's historical materials, from August 1945 to early 1946, after the Japanese surrender, the North Manchurian Provincial Committee organized a large number of cadres to go to the countryside to mobilize the masses and carry out anti-trader liquidation and rent and interest reduction campaigns. On May 4, 1946, the Central Committee issued the Instruction on Land Issues, referred to as the May 4th Instruction. It was decided to shift from the wartime, rent and interest reduction, to struggle ways such as against traders, liquidation, rent and interest refund, stating that landless or less land-owning peasants should obtain land from the landlords. The Northeast Bureau then decided to let go of the land issue and the land reform movement was launched. As the civil war between the Communist Party and the Kuomintang developed in 1947, the Communist policy took another leap and turned to the very radical Outline of China's Land Law, which vigorously promoted the practice of confiscation and equal division without specifying and dividing the class criteria of the countryside and with all efforts against rightist tendencies. Under such a radical policy, almost all the rural areas where the land reform was carried out at that time were subjected to brutal bloodshed in the form of indiscriminate beatings and killings. It was not until 1948 that the Communist Party began to correct the chaotic situation and brought it under control. The writer Zhou Libo came to Yuanbao village in Zhuhe County, Heilongjiang Province in September 1946 when he was a deputy secretary of the district committee in charge of leading the local land reform movement, after which he wrote the novel The Hurricane in 2 volumes. The first volume of the novel depicts the story of Yunbao village under the leadership of the task force, defeating the bully landlord Han Lao Liu, and repelling the bandits' attack before the issue of outline of China's land law, and after the order of May 4th instruction. The next volume depicts the struggle of the Communist Party in leading the land reform movement after the promulgation of the outline of China's land law. In 1961, Beijing Film Studio adapted Zhou Libo's novel into a feature film of the same name, directed by Xie Tieli. In both the novel and the film, landowners such as Han Lao Liu, Du Shanren, and Tang Zhuazi are depicted as bad people who oppress the citizens and are treacherous and vicious. According to the CCP, the land reform movement enabled it to establish a solid base of rule in the vast countryside, consolidate its bases, and control large amounts of civilian and material resources to support war and construction. The Hurricane is the reflection of this history. The interpretation of Zhou Libo's novel and a feature film is greatly different from the news documentary, which has the same name and was directed by Jiang Yue and Duan Jingchuan. As you all know, the iron rule of documentaries is to record without art processing and storytelling. Therefore, Jiang and Duan's documentary was based on personal interviews with the memories of the elderly people of Yuanbao village, coupled with the interpolation of the real historical footage from the former Kuomintang Central News Agency and the CCP's newsreel Democratic Northeast, Great Land Reform, and other footage, so that we see differently from Zhou Libo's made-up story with literary creations as a blueprint for the brainwashing. What is the difference between the two? About that, we'll talk about it in our next episode. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And we'll see you next time on Deception of the World.